Coming out this Wednesday on Beyond the Vibe, I'm joined by Anthony Gomes.
One day he said, I'm going to bring my son to come and see you play. I was like, yeah, of course. Well, somebody overheard our conversation and said, his son is Eric Clapton. And I'm like, there's no way his son is Eric Clapton. The next time, this guy who's obviously very enthusiastic, hey man, how's it going? And walks through the door and very stoic. I'm thinking, wow, maybe he's under the weather or he's not like his normal. It's very serious. And he looks at me, and right behind him is Eric Clapton. And he brought Eric to see our show. There's Eric Clapton, man. I have a picture of Israeli beers in my studio. I mean, this place that had a capacity of 250, it was jammed within half an hour.
Excuse me, mama, while I kiss the sky. Feel the power of my soul song falls. Will I ride into town all night? Painted horse.
It's funny because my manager and the record company label head Joe both picked those two songs as their favorites, and I was like, really? Those are your two? I had no idea, and we've done 4 videos, and we'll probably do some more, but Meet My Maker was one, and I was like, are you sure Meet My Maker? Like, is anybody gonna listen to this? Like, past the first verse? Like, is this just a deep cut?
Oh, peace and love and now guitar. Peace and love and now guitar.
Speaking of kind of all of these iconic musicians, like a Stones or a B.B. King or a Clapton or Hendrix, Van Halen, there's so many out there. I mean, what do you feel it is about these kind of musicians that gives them that X factor? For a while I always thought, it's because they have they're the most talented, they have the most ability, like they might be the best guitarist or something like that. But then I realized, the older I got and the more I was going to these kind of shows and gigs, like a Van Halen could come and play one note, and another musician over there could play the exact same note, and it wouldn't have half as much of an impact. What do you think it is?
So here's an exclusive story that I've never told from the very beginnings. Okay, now this is clickbait right here. This is clickbait right here. I love the Rolling Stones, but they screwed me over.
Wow.
Okay, everybody's paying attention now.
So I'm here with Anthony Gomes. Thank you so much for coming back. Of course, last time we spoke about your last album, High Voltage Blues, and at that time it was coming up to about half a year in the charts. And I tentatively said towards the end of it, I said, I wonder if we could do a year. And you were like, I don't know about that. Of course, that went on to do, what was it, 58 weeks?
58 weeks. Incredible. Like, I had no idea it had been on the charts. And somebody had told me that it was on the charts for 10 weeks. My girlfriend and I went out to dinner and celebrated, no spare, no expense, 10 weeks on the charts. Surely that's like, a highlight of, and it kept going. And then I remember you saying a year, and I'm like, you're a maniac. Okay. a year. Oh Lord. But it did. And a lot of people discovered our music over that time. And geez, so grateful for that.
Obviously after that, you would re-release the remix version of that Peace, Love and Loud Guitars. I mean, what with that off the back of it as well? I mean, I'm sure that did very well as well. I mean, what was that feeling like? I mean, you had obviously the record there with Ray Luzier and Billy Sheehan guesting, it was in for over a year. You then re-release another record. I mean, it must have felt, like I remember towards the end of that year, I do like my little award show. And I did we decided on you being the best breakthrough artist of that year. And I made that comment, didn't I? I said, oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
20 odd years in the making to break through.
Right.
Did it feel, I mean, I say that with much love. I mean, did it feel like, yes, I'm here now, I've done it?
So it was, what a strange mix of emotions. And just to further add to the point, High Voltage Blues was on Billboard in 2023, the #9 best-selling album of the year. And last year it was the 14th best-selling album. Like, so here's sort of the career arc. 23 and a half years of a very modest success in terms of album sales, audience, ticket sales. But in terms of quality of fans and love and support, we had the same 75 people that came every time we would play in Springfield, Missouri, or every time we would be, in Syracuse, New York. These 75 people, and they bring their kids with them, and we'd see their kids grow up, and we crash at their house, or they cook us a home cooked meal. And I've come to really appreciate the value in that, that now things have grown, but we sort of established over the course of decades, a foundation of I hate to say fandom, but a family of fans that have laid down the groundwork so that when new people come in, they're sort of embraced by a long time standing community. And so those people are still there. And, now we're playing shows, and, we're selling out in the UK, and we're doing 2 nights in Edinburgh. And it's sort of mind blowing. And yes, Peace, Love, and Loud Guitars gets re-released. The Whiskey Made Me Do It is a song on that album that sort of takes off and has a life of its own. And it's just crazy because I've been doing it so long that I naturally expected that this is sort of how things go. This is your life. You show up, and the 75 amazing people who you love and adore are going to show up to your show and say, gee, I don't know why there's not more people here. And you shrug it off and you go, well, maybe next time. And you release a record and you repeat and you release and you repeat. But all of a sudden with High Voltage Blues, I think it was maybe the first time that I was completely honest as an artist. And not to say that I was disingenuous before. I sort of make this analogy. You may speak differently to your dad than you do to your best friend or something. It's still who you are, but you sort of show a different side. And I think with High Voltage Blues, I just sort of said, well, I'm just going to be 100% who I am, and I can love John Lee Hooker and Eddie Van Halen, and those two things can coexist. So that's a very long answer to your question. It was like, in a weird way, I don't feel like I've arrived because I look at it as an entire journey. But it's sure nice, to have all these people come to the show, 400-500 people after years of, under 100, and I used to joke and I would say, well, guys, a cult band, I love a lot of bands that had cult followings, and they had about 100 people at their shows, like trying to emotionally deal with the blow after blow of moderate success. That being said, many wonderful people never even achieve that level of success, and many deserving people. But yeah, now when we get done at the end of a show and we have 500 people, we all look at each other and go, well, we fooled them again. Here we go. Um, but yeah, man, that's it feels great. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling to be able to take our music to new places.
Mm.
Yeah.
Of course, you have this new album on the way, Praise the Loud, coming out on April 25th. I mean, firstly, looking at obviously what you'd achieved with the previous release, was there when you were coming to make this album, was there a feeling of like, I've got to now try and top this? Like, I mean, I feel I get this sometimes where, if you have this amazing achievement, you're like, this is great. But there's a piece of you, I feel, in the back of your head that's like, oh no, I've got to now kind of somehow do better.
Fear is a great motivator, right? Fear really, and I think having Ray and Billy on High Voltage Blues motivator, like, I can't blame the bass player for this track not rocking, like that kind of thing. If anything, I felt like Praise the Loud, sort of preparing for today and our discussion and, knowing that I'd have to talk about the new album and trying to look at it from an unabsorbed place and take a step back. And I think this album is really a love letter to music. And it's my love letter to blues rock and roll. So there's a lot of songs on here. There's a song called Rock and Roll Blues Man, which is maybe there are different themes, but it's more like the thesis of the album. Like, yes, you can be ruckus and loud and turn everything up, but underneath all that, there is an acknowledgement of BB King and blues, and so instead of looking at the success of something that was daunting, I more or less looked at it in a way as an inspiring thing. And Albert King, the great bluesman, has a song, and it goes, "I've been down so long, down doesn't bother me." And man, I've had 23 and a half years of a very modest career. So if this didn't pop or doesn't pop, and hey, man, we could go back to those 75 people and have enjoy it. That being said, we worked very hard and tried to push the envelope on both sides, get it more soulful and more rocking, as that juxtaposed as those things may seem, just to push it. Yeah, it's and enjoy the ride, enjoy it. And you started to play the song, the title track, Praise the Loud, live. And it's been great. It's been great because it's a whole different element in the show, stylistically and thematically, and the audience interaction of the chorus of the praise. It's like, whoa, man! It's like we're going to war or something for rock and roll, to defend rock and roll. So that's been wonderful because you always wonder, are people going to like it? Is it going to be well received? But so far so good.
I mean, did you go in with a particular kind of mindset or approach for this record? I mean, I felt personally, I mean, from the beginning, as obviously the first track there being the title track, it feels like the choruses are bigger. They're catchier, they're bigger. There's something about it, and it just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it feels larger than it did before. I mean, I'm not sure if that's what you were going there with the stretching things.
I'm a huge AC/DC fan, and I love how their career has been an inspiration to me, as a lover of music, and they didn't have instant success, and all of a sudden they had Highway to Hell, like just broke them to a new level. But then they had Back in Black, which just, you know, um, what an answer to Highway to Hell, you know. So the challenge in my mind, not comparing myself to my heroes, because you never measure up to your heroes, but looking at ACD, and, you know, they had 4 or 5 albums, of modest success, and then boom, you know, record label's gonna drop them. Then they put out Highway to Hell. Things happen, you know. And so I was like, I was trying to make my version of Back in Black in my own mind, like um, using that band's journey, um, you know, far more successful than me. And you know, I want to say, you know, I'm looking at this as a fan of ACDC and their journey and trying to draw inspiration from it, you know. Um, but yeah, so I tried to make the songs bigger. I tried to make them a little teethier, a little harder edged. You know, um, just take what we had done on High Voltage Blues and floor it. You know, bury the needle as best we could. Um, and then, but then I wanted to still, like, Praise the Loud has, you know, gospel singers singing praise. You know, I wanted to keep it rooted still in my love of blues and gospel, let's say, on that song. Um, so yeah, I'm glad that you feel like it's bigger and nastier, because yeah, you know, that was definitely a goal. Like, okay, when you've been doing it a long time and the door is open a little bit, you have the wisdom and experience to know that that doesn't always happen. So now that it's open, let's kick that son of a gun open and just go. Um, that was the spirit, you know, and we tried to. I turned in 21 or 22 songs to the label, and they picked those 12. So, uh,
Mhm.
you know, there was a lot of hard work, like, uh, you know, um, this is a great opportunity that we have. People are paying attention, and you know, it's not our sophomore effort, so there's no sophomore slump or jinx, but
It's
but
true.
in many ways, it is. You know,
Mm.
it is for people. You know, I still get emails that say, "Oh, I got all your albums. I can't wait to get your third one."
Mm.
And it's like, hey man, there's 11 others behind that one. You know, so yeah, so it's cool.
I mean, it does feel like a more kind of refined version. I mean, like an Anthony Gomes 2.0, you know, it's got that evolution that you're talking about there. I mean, um, you know, with the songs, you know, like some of my kind of personal favorites off the record is, you know, the title track that Praise the Loud and Meet My Maker. I mean, both having these kind of big things, but you know, again, it's like what we mentioned last time, isn't it? Where it feels like you sit in two worlds. You know, you're not boxed into a particular thing. You ride that line, as you say, that there's gospel elements there where you brought in that. I mean, is there anything for you when you were making the record? Is there a standout for you? Is there any kind of favorites, or is it like trying to pick a favorite kid?
Yeah, you know, or you love or hate them all, depending. It's such this crazy journey, you know. It's like you get this grain of an idea and then it's very inspired and excited by it. And then, you know, that's the first draft. And in the second draft, you have to pick it apart, you know, and to see if it will stand up, you know. Um, it's funny because my manager and the record company label head Joe both picked those two songs as their favorites, and I was like, "Really? Those are your two?" Yeah, I had no idea, you know. And we've done 4 videos, and
Mm.
we'll probably do some more. But Meet My Maker was one, and I was like, "Are you sure, Meet My Maker? Like, is anybody gonna listen to this? Like, past the first verse? Like, is this just a deep cut?" Um, but
There's
everybody's like,
something
"No,
there. Yeah.
there's some." Yeah, I think when you're, I'm never disingenuous. I never try to be that way. But whenever I feel an artist does something that's slightly out of the expected,
Mm.
that's when true magic can happen. Um, and you know, on that song, I was really trying to channel. Um, Here's a weird combination. We share, you and I, a love of early Black Sabbath. So I, to me, I was trying to channel Black Sabbath meets Fleetwood Mac, like,
Wow.
you know, um, you know, uh, just this idea of this haunting kind of horror like thing, um, but an anthemic thing that a Fleetwood Mac may have. So that was,
Mm.
and it's a song about really, it, without giving all of it away. There's other things to the song, but it's basically a song of dealing with death, and our own mortality, and um, that doesn't sound like something an artist that does the Whiskey Made Me Do It, right? A song about. But so I think when you're an artist and you do um, those things, and Praise the Loud was also coming from, um, sort of this journey that we've talked about here already of straddling this line between blues and rock, and um, finally having some success with high voltage blues, embracing that fully. And so it was like, it gave me sort of the courage to say, okay, yeah, the gloves are off. Let's go. Let's have some, double kick drum fills in this thing, and heavy wah wah, and as loud as we can, ruckus as we can make it. So yeah, I think when you're honest as an artist, and you're pushed in somewhere in a different place, it makes for great music. That's why I love Cream. Eric Clapton would hate it when Jack Bruce would play blues in a traditional way and go to the four chord instead of staying on the one, but it really pushed Eric in a great place. So I think sometimes getting out of your zone, um, is a cool thing. And thank you for listening to the record, and thank you for mentioning some of your favorites, because uh, you work on this in secrecy in this lab, and you finally birth it, and you're like, you're now in the stage of full abandonment. You just
Mm.
let it go. It's like, you know try to make it better, and when you're only making it worse by trying to improve it. So this is the best it can be. Here you go. So it's cool. It's cool. Thank you. For me, that's a thrill when people listen to it and say, "Hey, I like this song," or
Mm.
I'm into that song." Because you never know. You never know as the architect. What will speak. And you know, Deep Purple didn't think "Smoke on the Water" was a hit. It's
True.
like,
Yeah. It's like
yeah, maybe I'm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Obviously we touched a little bit on the kind of the variety. Obviously, one of the new kind of light-hearted ones, Netflix and chill. Um, when you approach these kind of songs, obviously we talked about one that's a bit more serious, like Meet My Maker, and then you've got a Netflix and chill. Is there a difference in how you approach those songs? Is there a difference in process? Is there a difference in when you go to sit down, do you have to be in a certain kind of mood? There's some variety there, isn't there, in
Yeah.
style?
I tend to write when I'm very happy,
Mm.
and usually when the sun is shining, and I'm cruising down the road, and uh, or, or even songs that are very sad or heartfelt. If
Mm.
I'm in a very happy place, I think I'm open to receive inspiration, whatever it may be. And uh, the formula is pretty much the same generally. Like, um, the song cannot suck, right? Like, so that, like, that's where you start. Like, let's hope this is not the worst piece of crap ever. So, and I think all songs have different power points. And,
Mm.
I never hear people really talk about that. They talk more about virtuos playing or ability, individual ability. But I think in arranging a song, even if it's subtle things, you always have to keep the listener engaged. And it could be musically, it could be dropping a lyric at the right sort of point. Um, but when I'm working on a song, I know if I'm losing interest, then everybody's going to lose interest. I'm the most invested in it. And so people will have different degrees of casual interest. So um, I'm very careful to make sure in any song that um, there's something else to keep the interest there, whether it's a serious lyric or a funny one or um, yeah. But I like silly, stupid songs, and um, I think that a lot of people, when they hear some of these songs of ours that are not the serious ones, they tend to take us not seriously.
Mm.
Um, and it's like, no, this is serious. This is serious business, but you can still laugh when you do it. And I found that humor such an effective device when you want to be serious. The best way to disarm somebody with whatever prejudice they have, whatever playing to an audience of people with different points of view, is to get them with something funny because it reduces people's guard, it opens them up. And then when they're open, man, shazam, you hit them with the truth. And it's such a powerful thing. But music and humor, I feel, are a way of uniting people, you know. Um, so, I mean, yeah, we have some silly songs on past releases, like Trash Princess or Netflix and Chill, or we have one called Half, which is about getting a divorce. Um, and they're dumb, silly songs. And then I'll read Facebook comments, which an artist should never do. And it's like, whoa, who wrote these lyrics? A 14-year-old? And it's like, yes, my inner 14-year-old wrote these dumb lyrics. But uh, I yeah, they're honest and they're serious. They may be funny, but I think underneath there's a very serious intent.
Mm.
So yeah.
I mean, I was last time when I was hearing these kind of songs, like a fur covered handcuffs or something like that. I was trying to think what it was. It kind of reminded me of for those kind of lighter-hearted songs, and then I realized afterwards it gave me that kind of ZZ Top vibe. So,
Yes,
like
absolutely.
give me all your loving, and stuff like that. It's got that, there's that fun edge, but
Yes.
there's Billy Gibbons who's is
Yeah.
like great. He's a great
Yeah.
musician. He does great stuff. It's like this perfect balance. I think you kind of need that light and shade, don't you? It's
I think it's very important because early on in my career, I wanted to save the world and change the world. And, I saw an interview where Paul McCartney said, all you need is love, is writing songs about love was the greatest achievement that an artist could have. Totally agree. So then I went on my journey to be very unfunny and very serious about making the world a better place and with all sincerity. But, you know, um, yeah, it's funny because you're so spot on when you say ZZ Top because I have two go-tos, on
right.
Scott and ZZ Top. And so when I wrote Fur Covered Handcuffs, I thought, ZZ Top or Bon Scott write this? And I thought, yes. So it was like I won't mention them, but I've had a few really dumb ideas, and I'm like, no, they would never do that song. So it's probably good, you know. Um, and like another band I use is Led Zeppelin, as far as like looking at them, sometimes as far as in integrity. There's a lot of brand sophistication. Let's say, so I may do a Christmas album at one time. Everybody goes, you should do a Christmas album, and I'm thinking, would Led Zeppelin do a Christmas album? Absolutely not. you know, and so we haven't gone down that place, but there's been discussion, and fans always saying, oh, but then I love James Brown, and he has a Christmas record. But it's funny. I use different artists for um to keep me in check. These are my heroes. These are people that I really love and admire. BB King or Led Zeppelin. When it comes to lyrics, of course I admire Sting. But at the same time, like you said, the light and shade. Very important.
um, of course, last time you had this incredible story of the photograph of BB King taken by Robert Plant, which just kind of blew my mind. I also hear that you did also have an unusual encounter with Eric Clapton. I mean,
Yeah,
how did that happen?
his father-in-law owned or was part owner in a club in Columbus, Ohio, that we would play. And he loved the band, and he was very enthusiastic. I mean, he'd be talking, and then one day he said, "I'm going to bring my son to come and see you play." So I was like, "Yeah, of course." Well, somebody overheard our conversation and said, "His son is Eric Clapton." And I'm like, there's no way his son is Eric Clapton. Because at the time, Clapton was probably, let's say, 55. And this guy was 55, right? So I'm like, there's no way he's Clapton's father. I mean, unless, he was conceived when this guy was 1 year old, And he's like, oh, no, father-in-law. And so the next time, this guy who's obviously very enthusiastic, hey man, how's it going? And walks through the door and very stoic. I'm thinking, wow, maybe he's under the weather, or he's not like his normal. It's very serious. And he looks at me, and right behind him is Eric Clapton. And he brought Eric to see our show. And I was introduced, and um, you know, there's Eric Clapton, man. I have a picture of Disraeli Gears in my studio. I mean, this guy was such a huge influence. So, and then it's like, oh God, I don't want to be that guy. Hey man, oh Eric, So I just said, thank you for the music. I was really proud of myself that I didn't go all fanboy on him. And he was very kind and just a really nice guy. And um, this place that had a capacity of 250.
Wow.
I mean, it was jammed within a half an hour, and he couldn't stay. And so it was like, but at least I got to meet somebody who I super admired and still do to this day as a guitarist. But here's a story, so people say, tell me a story, and I never remember any of them. And then the guys in the band are like, you're an idiot, because like we'll be rolling down the road and you have hundreds of stories. So here's an exclusive story that I've never told from the very beginnings. Okay, now this is clickbait right here. This is clickbait right here. I love the Rolling Stones, but they screwed me over.
Wow.
Wow. Is okay, everybody's paying attention now. Um, so my first band in high school and college, we were called Profanity Fair, and I played guitar in this band. We had won the best band in Toronto's main rock station. So this is the mid '90s. We won the Battle of the Band. We won $10,000 in prizes. We were uh, scheduled to possibly open for Bon Jovi at this time. I mean, this is big stuff at this time. Like, lots of really big things happening for this band. So we get this gig at this huge 1,500 seater in Toronto called RPM. We take out thousands of dollars in ads. We flyer for 8 weeks every day after work. We're going to the bar. Come and see our band. Come and see our band. Man, the buzz is happening. We're all excited. You know, this is our moment for this band. The day of the gig, the venue calls us up and goes, "Hey boys, really bad news. Gonna have to cancel your gig." And we're like, "What? This is supposed to be the best venue. This is the most unprofessional thing." He goes, "I hate doing this call, but you'll find out." 1 hour later, guess what? The Rolling Stones are playing RPM in Toronto that night, the night of our gig, surprise pop-up gig. They didn't give us tickets. We didn't get an opening slot. And then the band broke up. We were like, "This is over." So there you go. I mean, I love the Stones. I understand why they did that. But man, then I went straight into the blues. I was like, "You're a blues band. They won't knock you off your gig. They'll just come and sit in." So, but yeah, there you go. There's that story of trials and tribulations. But yeah.
I mean, that's a song title if I ever heard one. The Rolling Stones screwed me over.
You know, let's write it when we're done. Come on,
This is it, right? It feels like it would sit next to Netflix and chill.
you know. Oh gosh, but yeah,
The chances of that's unbelievable. That they would pick the one place where you're going to be, man.
and you know, I mean, and we had worked so hard. It was the culmination of this indie band of years of work for this one gig.
It's
So
the chance of Mick Jagger going, "You know what? We're going to play here that night." You know?
yeah, like they would rehearse a lot of times in Toronto in the '90s. A lot of bands did. Floyd did. I think because culturally, Toronto was very much like a Euro US hybrid. So I think that they felt very more at home, say there, and probably the Canadian dollar was made it lucrative to do that, and Toronto was a big city. So yeah, I'm sure they were rehearsing and saying, "Guys, man, the band sounds really good. I think we're ready, but we need a couple live shows under our belt. Let's do one tomorrow," you know. And of course, they're the biggest rock band in the world. So yes, you would bump anybody, especially this little teeny tiny band. But so I'm putting it in the universe that something full circle will happen with the Rolling Stones. Maybe they'll throw us a bone and we'll get an opening gig that you know will set this karmic path to neutral ground, you know. Yes.
Send Mick Jagger a clip.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
You know, speaking of kind of all of these iconic musicians, you know, like a Stones or a BB King or a Clapton or Hendrix, Van Halen, you know, there's so many out there. I mean, what do you feel it is about these kind of musicians that gives them that X factor? You know, for a while, I always thought, oh, you know, it's because they have they're the most talented, they have the most ability, like they might be the best guitarist or something like that. But then I realized, you know, the older I got and the more I was going to these kind of shows and gigs, you know, like a Van Halen could come and play one note and another musician over there could play the exact same note, and it wouldn't have half as much of an impact. What do you think it is that gives them that kind of extra thing?
Well, you mentioned like the X factor, right? So that's some
Mm.
that, or the je ne sais quoi. People have tried to use terms to um, say that we're aware that this exists. Now, what it is something that's highly debatable. Um,
Mm.
and like you, I thought it was initially the best, right? The most technically proficient.
Yeah.
With that argument, Chick Corea is probably, the Chick Corea band is probably the greatest ensemble of musicians and
Mm.
ability. Um, and they're probably good for 300 tickets in Chicago. And you'll get 75 bass players and 75 keyboard players, 75 drummers, and 75 guitar players getting their mind blown by this thing. Um, and I think that people say X factor or magic, but I think it's just something that's uniquely you.
Mm.
That's a unique. So Eddie Van Halen is a more technical guitar player than Tony Iommi, but there's just something when that guy plays with half his fingers missing and a guitar tuned down. There's nothing more powerful than those riffs. Or Kurt Cobain,
Mm.
very simple guitar player, but instantly recognizable, um, very unique, and standing out as um, something different somehow. And I always like artists that uh, so there's some element of surprise.
Mm.
Jeff Beck as a guitar player always had an element of surprise. Paul Rogers as a vocalist, you know, he would sing 4 lines. Most vocalists would put all the money on line number 4 to take it home. And Paul would put the money on line number 3 and sucker punch you with a light number 4 and then knock you out with the chorus. And you're like, what just happened? I was not anticipating that, Um, so yeah, I think it's the ability to tell a story in a unique way.
Mm.
Technique is like vocabulary. Like the more vocabulary you have, the better you're able to precisely tell your story. But great storytellers could be a 6-year-old in a classroom, or somebody with a fifth grade education that's 70 years old, or a a PhD graduate. All different voices, but the story they're telling is done so in an impactful way, in an engaging way. And it's not the complexity of the story, it's
Mm.
the excitement of the story and the relatability of the story, but the ability to combine the expected with the unexpected. And all of our heroes, B.B. King plays one note and it's 10,000 pounds. The same thing like Eddie, you mentioned about Eddie Van Halen.
Mm.
What is this? What is it? Is it something in um, their spirit and their soul or their personality that is amplified in their playing? Because there's some really amazing, wonderful, incredible people, heroes of mine that I've met that I can't believe that are so humble and they do these great things. And then there's some less great people who I've met, which thankfully is in the very small minority. And they've still done great things. So I don't know. I just think it's something that's engaging. I don't know. What do you think? What is
For me, there's something. It's like they found a particular thing. Like it's not necessarily ability or anything like that, as we mentioned it. It's like they have something that's very individual to their character. That like nobody else can do but them.
yeah.
Like even if it's like a really small thing, There's something. It's like that, maybe the guitar tone. It's like a style that nobody's done before, or like you can't. I suppose you could replicate it, but like you're the first to do that. Like a Hendrix, for example, I think it's a great one because it's, he changed the game, right? Like the way in which he played was just so different to everybody else at that point. And again, it's like you look at that with Van Halen, changed the game. I don't know whether it's something to do with that. I mean, I was looking at, a bit more recently, a Zach Wild.
Right.
Again, it was like that. It's like he'd found maybe like, I mean, particularly with the guitarist, maybe it's like they make that guitar like an extension of themselves.
Yeah. And they do stuff like you said, yes, extension of themselves and something that's recognizable. Yeah, in an approach, um, and
It's like they don't have to be the best. Like you don't need to be the best singer.
yeah,
Or...
and then you could argue, what does the best even mean? Like further to your point, is
so
the
subjective.
best?
Yeah,
it's the best, the ability to do things quickly. I, going back to Billy Gibbons, he says it's like capturing lightning in a bottle.
Mm.
So maybe it's this thing of finding this magic, and these people do this, whether they're a virtuoso or not. They're able to engage us. Like, I mean, is technically Eddie Van Halen better than Tony Iommi? Yeah, but I wouldn't want to hear Van Halen in Black Sabbath. There's no other guy. I mean, it's Tony. And he just does, and whatever that, yeah, and it's such a celebration of music too when you look at it in those terms of an individual thing and a unique representation.
Mm. A question I like to finish on for returning guests, for those that do want to come back.
Yes.
If you could be kind of a fly on the wall or a part of any album, what would that album be, do you think?
Wow.
Like you could see how it went down.
Well, luckily with, people sometimes film the behind the scenes thing.
Mm.
I mentioned this before, but I would love to have seen AC/DC behind the scenes of making Back in Black, the number one selling rock album of all time. This album gets released 4 months after they lose their singer. This guy's coming, and there's some conspiracy theories involved and contributions of past members, living or dead. I would just like to be a fly on the wall and just see, how did this thing happen?
Yeah.
Because next to Thriller, it's the biggest selling album of all time. So, how did this band make this great album with all this adversity?
I mean, this is the anomaly for me because, replacing a singer, I mean, I've said it in the past, I feel that that's one of the hardest things a band can do. Like if you've got a vocalist, it's like, it's the voice of the band, right?
And especially one that was such an integral part of the band and the creativity and the sound and then so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the album came out in June and Bon Scott passed away in mid-February. Just to get over that grief.
Yeah.
I mean, and then to get in the studio and channel these things. I would be very curious. Another album that's brings into mind is like Songs in the Key of Life. This album took 2 years to make, and what a masterpiece that was. working with great producers like Mutt Lange or Quincy Jones, that would be so much fun to be a part of. So yeah. Um,
There's so many options in there. It kind of opens that door. You start to wonder, don't you? It's like, oh my God, this could happen. I mean, I've had a few people that are like, I wonder what Guns N' Roses would have been like for
oh yeah.
Appetite for Destruction. I mean, who knows? It's one of those, isn't it? Like, I think particularly those that didn't have those anything behind the scenes from back in the day, isn't it? There's always that mystery.
Yeah. I mean, especially like on a debut album that really made things happen. I think people would um, generally be surprised of the work ethic that those artists had at that time to create. Like Elton John has one of my favorite quotations. It's like, do you have fun when you're making albums? And he's like, yes, just my worst ones. I had a great time making the worst albums I've ever made. They were a blast. Uh, all these great albums, um, there's emotional toll. I
Yeah.
saw the making of Hysteria and Joe Elliott is in tears. Like, you're not, you're going to suffer when you're making art, you know, or trying to push yourself. So, um, yeah, I think we'd all be surprised as to just how hard our heroes work to make those things happen.
No, I agree, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. Of course, for those out there that want to pre-order the new album, which is out on April 25th, Praise the Loud, you can via the link in the description below. And of course, you are doing vinyl again, aren't you?
Oh man, we are doing so much vinyl. It's crazy. We have black vinyl, clear and blue splatter,
Yeah.
blue and black splatter, blues breaker, this nut thing. I'm a vinyl nut, so it's like people, people are like, why do you have so many versions of your vinyl album? I'm like, because when Ozzy puts out an album and there's 4 variants, I'm the idiot that buys all of them and the CD and I stream. It's like I'm the best possible fan because they're maximizing um, uh, whatever financial contribution I can make because I love it. So,
Of course. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time again, man.
and Ryan, thank you for all that you've done for us. Sincerely, our this interview has been awesome, and our first one that we did was a highlight on the last
Thanks so
album
much,
cycle.
man.
Yeah, and I appreciate the time you take to research this stuff and the engaging questions you ask that I don't answer all the time. And yeah, so
Sometimes I write these and I go, I don't know if they're gonna like me by the end of this.
right, but it engages conversation, and I think for fans of any act, if they watch your episode, they know they're going to get something different and unique look into the artist. So thank you for that. Thank you for Breakthrough Artist Award of 2023. It was great to be honored with that, and it felt wonderful and very Spinal Tap-esque.
Wow.
25 years in the making. But
The audience was so positive. They were loving it. They were like all behind you. I was getting comments coming through of like, yes, he should win. Like when I was premiering it, people were like, yeah, if Anthony Gomes doesn't win this category.
right. All sense of humanity and decency will be forever lost.
It's like if you don't pick him, I'm going to be having people knocking on my door. It's like,
I mean, but the way I looked at it is, hey, we didn't win it for 24 years. We could win. We're a shoo-in for next year.
this time next year.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you, Ryan, so much for your time.
Thanks so much, fella. I really appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll connect again in the future, man.